But explain to me, like I'm five, how he got to be a senator when he was engaged in the biggest Medicare fraud ever, wasn't he, in Florida?
I mean,
Can you explain what
that's
happened there?
Stephanie, that's the question that I get everywhere I go. People just don't understand how someone that committed Medicare fraud, Rick Scott, with committing the largest Medicare fraud in the history, he was CEO of that company, and they had to pay back $1.7 billion, stealing benefits from seniors. I mean, I want everyone to understand how low can you go doing that. That's the danger that we have in our political system. That if you have a lot of money, he took
Yeah.
that money to buy his seat. When you have that amount of money that you can put ads and lie on national television, on local TV stations, lie about who he is and who his opponents are, that's what gets people confused.
Yeah.
They recognize the name, they go, they vote without having a lot of information. That's part of the problem. We need to get money out of politics.
Yeah.
We need to people like myself to have a playing an even playing field, right?
Yeah.
We've been outspending him by just a small amount, and all of a sudden, Stephanie, just this week, he put a lot of money against me because he knows that Florida has
Yeah.
had enough of Rick Scott,
Yeah.
and he knows that we are ahead in the polls. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. Because I know when last we talked, you were in a dead heat, and it is, thank God. And by the way, they'll destroy Medicare entirely and Social Security if they get in. It's in Project 2025.
It's in writing, right? It's a plan that's in writing. They want to. Rick Scott started. He wrote the preamble for Project 2025 with his 11-point plan for America, where he proposed eliminating Medicare and Social Security and sunsetting all federal legislation that would eliminate all federal programs. I mean, I spoke with a federal employee recently. He actually works in a financial oversight firm. It's a federal agency, and he's really worried he's going to lose his job. I mean, people that conduct appropriate oversight of the banking system, oversight on the financial system, oversight on election, on campaign
Yeah.
finance, right? Like all these things that are really important for our democracy, those posts would be eliminated.
And Deb, we just talked off air about people don't think, I don't think they understand what's happening in places like Florida and Texas. I think Colin Allred's going to win. I think you're going to win. We just had another woman die of a miscarriage in Texas because of their laws. And you said, reminder, Rick Scott proudly supports Florida's near total ban on abortion with almost no exception for rape or incest. We keep saying it, but November is coming, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, we are now living under a 6-week ban. And I hear stories like the one that you just mentioned. I've been hearing more and more devastating stories for women. And when we live under these bans, it's not only a matter of life and death. I mean, it's a matter of healthcare for women, but also we are seeing higher rates of violence against women when we live under these extreme bans. And the extremism doesn't even stop there. Rick Scott supports the 6-week ban. He supports a national abortion ban, but he also voted against contraception. He voted against access to IVF. We are seeing more women coming out to the polls. It's the same thing that you're seeing across the country. The rate of women coming out to vote is much higher than men, but there are a lot of men where this is also one of
Yeah.
their main issues.
And Deb, everybody's talking, of course, about this horrible hate fest at Madison Square Garden. I want to get your thoughts on that, but it's not one guy and one joke. At this point, it's the whole party. You tweeted Rick Scott joined a self-described white nationalist podcast to appease Donald Trump. He doesn't care about how you're going to put food on your table or pay your bills. The only constituent he cares about is Trump. And you talked about Fred Gutenberg, our friend, actually tweeted, I have to be honest, Rick Scott, at first I thought this was a joke. You can't talk about Republicans acting like Republicans again by having a conversation with Laura Loomer. Your demented idea of normal only reinforces why I proudly voted yesterday for Debbie for Florida. And you said Laura Loomer's an anti-Semitic, anti-Puerto Rican extremist, and Scott made it loud and clear whose support he cares about most. He is a desperate fraud. He has made this whole party like this.
I mean, he is, first of all, he's desperate. But it's not just that he's desperate because he becomes more and more dangerous with the things that he's been doing, but he has always been this extreme radical politician who will do anything for power. And so he has chosen to be on the side of the MAGA extreme movement. Laura Loomer is the conspiracy theorist in chief. I mean, the woman has questioned in Parkland. She actually questioned saying that it didn't even happen, that one of the worst massacres where our children were killed in that shooting in that school. And that's why Fred Gutenberg posted that. And Rick Scott is siding with this woman. Rick Scott has actually voted against certifying the election, if you remember. He's been this extreme, pretends not to be when he's on air, right?
Yeah.
But he's been right now evading, slithering away from accountability, is what I say, because he doesn't want to confront the voters of Florida. He's been like on these right-wing extreme podcasts, on these shows, refuses to answer questions to mainstream media here, refuses to debate me, supports the attacks against all these groups. They are hateful, disgusting, vile attacks. And they're meant to divide us. They're meant to distract us. They're meant so that they don't answer to what they're going to do once they get there. They don't want to propose any plan for families to reduce the cost of living here. They don't want to talk about protecting Medicare and Social Security because they want to get rid of it.
That sounds so familiar to me, a guy being afraid to debate a woman. Where have I heard that? Seems to be a bit of a theme. You know, Chasten Buttigieg also tweeted, Rick Scott, I'm going to team up with the woman who said 9/11 was an inside job and that the White House will smell like curry if Kamala Harris wins because I'm a real Republican. And you just said Rick Scott is so desperate, he's now trying to get help from this conspiracy theorist in chief. She even said Casey DeSantis made up her breast cancer. Florida needs so much better than a thief and a fraud. Oh my God. This is honestly, one of the biggest public services getting rid of this guy.
And I think, Stephanie, and I think that's why it's so important. And thank you for highlighting the race, because it's going a little bit unnoticed on who this man is. Right. He wants to become Senate Majority Leader. Yeah. Just think of a world where you would miss Mitch McConnell. Okay.
Right. Oh my God.
He is that dangerous, that bad. It would be a disaster for Florida and catastrophic for America. Mm-hmm. So people need to pay attention, and I need help here. I mean, I still need people contributing. I still need people text banking, knocking on doors. I need all the help I can get.
And let me just say, you tweeted, Rick Scott has stood by as Floridians struggle to pay for their groceries and their insurance. Let's talk about insurance for a minute, because I'm dealing with trying to get earthquake insurance out here in California. And that is one of the biggest crises in Florida, isn't it? Is people can't get insurance. They're getting priced out of insurance, out of homes, and he does nothing about it.
No, actually, he created the insurance crisis that we have in the state of Florida. We are paying 4 times the national average for insurance, for property insurance bills, right? He brought, when he was governor, he brought these insurance companies that had given him millions of dollars in contributions without any sort of oversight. And these are the same companies that are now charging us 4 times the national average and refuse to pay claims. If you watched 60 Minutes, Heritage Insurance Company, that's the one that Rick Scott brought to Florida. So not only has he done nothing, he created the crisis that we're living in.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of, when you're living in earthquake country, trying to get insurance, when you live in hurricane affected areas, trying to get insurance, right?
And here's something that for you, this would be important as well. There's a bill that I can lead in the Senate that would lower property insurance rates by 25%.
Hello. I'm in.
And this helps everyone. Yeah. So, whether you're living in Florida or in California, this will help a lot of people that are really being priced out of their homes right now.
Yeah. Deb, let's talk about this whole, I mentioned Madison Square Garden, but the Puerto Rican factor, because they appear to not get how really enraged Puerto Ricans are. And I'm sure in your state as well, and in Pennsylvania, a lot of critical states, right?
Yeah, and this is a pattern of behavior. This is what I think people need to understand. It wasn't just the Puerto Ricans, right?
Thank you.
By the way, 1.1 million Puerto Ricans live in the state of Florida, and they vote, and they're upset.
Yep.
We had a press conference with the leaders of that Puerto Rican community. They are angry, and they are transferring that anger into the ballot box. So I don't know what they're thinking, but it's a pattern. It was Puerto Ricans on Sunday. It was Haitian Americans a couple of weeks ago. It's been immigrants. We even heard the former president attack Jews, saying that if Jews don't vote for him, there's something wrong in their head. I mean,
he's already blamed them. He's already blamed them. I think he knows he's going to lose, Deb. I think he said, I'm going to. Jews will be.
This is why I'm concerned, because it seems as though they are setting the stage to not certify the election once again. And Rick Scott has said has not confirmed whether he will recognize the results of the election. And so when you see a rally, a hate rally in Madison Square Garden telling us and making jokes about insulting, vile attacks against the community, like the Puerto Rican community, they attacked Latinos, by the way. They attacked every group. It was one after the other. Donald Trump was there. He heard that. He didn't say anything after he went onto the stage hearing all these attacks. They're telling us who they are. They're telling us what they want to do. They want to take power, control for themselves, for self-enrichment, and deport and attack any community that is not following the line of Trump. This happens in Venezuela, in Cuba, in China. These are very dangerous tactics. They will do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah.
It's a warning for America, and the world is watching.
And by the way, Deb, every bill, every lawsuit they're filing is about trying to disenfranchise people, trying to keep people from voting. Lighting ballot boxes on fire. There was a kid, MAGA guy in Neptune. Where is it called? Neptune City in Florida. Intimidating Democratic voters with a machete. They're already starting, and we just have to, be vigilant, but don't be afraid.
I am very, very proud and happy with our law enforcement officers who respond immediately, and they understand what's at stake, and they're protecting the safety of the public, and they know that any sort of voter intimidation or violence is unacceptable. And so I want to take this space in this moment to thank our police officers, to thank our law enforcement officers. They're in a really difficult position because they know that for them it's about safety, and they have the MAGA movement also kind of intimidating them, right? Intimidating law enforcement officers.
Yeah.
But I want to thank them for always standing on the right side, and I'm asking right now to the law enforcement officers to continue to do that. We need them. We need them for our safety.
Yeah, I can speak to that as someone that they were on it when I was Fort Lauderdale spring break in high school. They were on that drinking on the beach. I tell you what, they were cracked down on that. Good job. Okay. Deb, how do we help? Where do we go? What do we do?
Please, DebbieForFlorida.com. I know I've been asking. I need to keep asking. We're almost there. 5 more days. We continue to put ads all over the place. We're doing voter outreach, text banking, phone banking, also people knocking on doors. Listen, you still have time to buy a good deal and come to Miami and help me get the vote out over here. So anything that you can do, we welcome all the help and all the support. We know that we're doing well. We know that this race is going to be tight until the end. The exit polls have me ahead right now, and we need you to help. Yep. DebbieForFlorida.com.
And beside the fact that some people have a little bit of trouble with Mucarsel, I love that your slogan is Debbie for Florida. It's like Kamala Harris for the people. Yeah. Because you are for Florida, and it is, you were talking about all the issues that are going to help real Floridians. So we wish.
Florida is an incredible state, Stephanie. The people of Florida are incredible. I am just so proud to be a Floridian. I am where I am right now because of them, because of their support. Because they believe what's possible when we come together and work for a better future for all of us.
And can I say I have Fernando Armandi on all the time, pollster. Florida grows the best looking men. I don't know what's in the swamp water, but oh God, it's really.
Oh, I'm going to tell him you said that. He's going to love that compliment. Oh yeah.
Oh, I say it all the time to him. I sexually harass him endlessly. All right, Debbie for Florida, help our friend. Yes, please. Sending you so much love and light. Thank you, Deb.
Thank you so much, Stephanie.
All
See
right.
you on the other side.
There she goes. Rock star, Debbie Mucarsel Powell. Debbie for Florida, get it, go.
That's right. We link to it at all of your socials.
There you go, 48. I remember you called into the radio show and read tweets as the Joker.
Yes.
But
well, after doing the
at least the Joker had some redeeming qualities.
Well, the thing is, after doing it for so long, I recognize really good demented dialogue. And there was a tweet that he did, and someone commented, "This sounds like something the Joker would say while threatening to poison Gotham City's water supply." And I thought, you know what, I should do that. Because, he can't just say Merry Christmas. He has to say, Merry Christmas, even to the losers and communists and Democrat left-wing assholes. Why can't, just say Merry Christmas and stop? We'd be happy with that. But I have a message, I say the force is strong with the Democratic Party. And my message to MAGA is, go force yourself, all right? I like that because it sounds dirty and it's not, and I don't work blue. Hey.
Of course not. If you could devise a campaign that is meant to alienate more segments of the population, Chairman, I was saying, what is J.D. Vance's door-knocking operation? Is he just going to call every woman in America a whore? Hi, you're a C word and your mother's a whore. Thank you. I'm J.D. Vance. Mark, I know you're brave to speak out politically in Hollywood. I know you wish you could have Scott Baio's career, but
or Kevin Sorbo's.
But talk a little bit about why you've decided, because they always say actors don't want to be political.
Right. Well, the honest truth is that I've always voted. I've always followed politics very closely, but I've never publicly expressed how I felt and how I was going to vote. Even in 2016 with Hillary. But this time, I felt like I have a responsibility. That it's far more important, because I've had people say, you could hurt your career. I don't care. This is more important. Who cares if I get a guest spot on The Mandalorian versus a mentally ill person back in the Oval Office? There's no contest. So, basically, I don't care. I never block people on Twitter because I don't want to give them the satisfaction of the screenshot that said Mark Hamill blocked you. So I've never blocked anyone. But I was muting people like crazy. And then I looked up at the clock and I said, Mark, you've been muting people for 20 minutes. Now I don't even mute people. I start to scan because obviously there's an equal and opposite reaction from the MAGA crowd. Ooh, do they hate me? Yeah, yay. Lucky for me, I don't care.
And you know why they hate you? Because you're going to help us blow up the Death Star in November.
Yes. Well, I always urge people, don't turn to the orange side.
McConnell is the reason he has two of those seats, because he stole Merrick Garland's seat, and then he did the exact same thing when he said they couldn't have Merrick Garland, putting in Amy Coney Barrett. So those two seats would not have been Trump's. Those two picks would not have been Trump's. They would have been Obama's and Joe's, but they're not. They're Trump's, and that was all McConnell. And then for McConnell to stand there and say this belongs in the courts, and then the courts weigh in, and their decision is that, yes, he's above the law. He's basically a king. We're going to be a country to go back to a monarchy. Like, what?
Yeah, I was so furious because the rationalization, John Roberts' rationalization was a president needs to act boldly and unhesitatingly. The idea being that a president cannot be encumbered by having to think for even a moment, or consider what's legal for even a moment. And it's the dumbest thing. It's like that's the difference. A king does not have to worry about what the law is.
Right.
A president does. That is literally the difference, you boneheaded douchebag.
who cares? I can't believe that the lyric in my jingle, Trumpy likes to bitch and whine, is still
Relevant.
I mean, this jingle
He's never
is 8
stopped.
years old.
He's never stopped with the whining. Oh my God.
And I mean, he's going to whine until the day he dies, but I didn't think in 8 years it would be relevant because he's running for president for the third time.
Don't you think there's just an exhaustion factor? You said the same thing I did. I don't know if I'm supposed to say.
Our
favorite sweaty church whore. Hello.
Well, hello, and happy Halloween.
Yeah, you too. Happy Halloween.
She has to go
So
to work.
I'm
Quiet place.
glad to report here from the cheese state that almost 1 million people voted early so far,
Fantastic.
and the lines have been like wrapped around. So like my boyfriend, also known as my lover, and
Your
best
lover.
friend, had to wait an hour and a half. But he said it was worth it. He said because democracy is at stake.
Yep.
And to the blonde dumbass kid with the wielding around the machete, because that was in Florida. Well, first of all, how much of a cowardly bitch you have to be to do that to two older women?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some 18-year-old douche
secondly-
bro. Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah,
As
and
Frangela says, this is not going to be about bros. It's about row. Douche bro. Wielding a stupid machete at a 7-year-old woman. We're not afraid, right? Girls. Boys are dumb. Okay. Anita in San Antonio. Hello.
Good morning. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, we had a guy here punch an elderly election worker in the face and stomach
Ay.
because she told him to take off his MAGA cap.
Yeah. No,
I
we
don't know, I
covered
think
that
you heard
story.
about that.
Yeah, no, we covered that story.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I know you had that caller that talked about Jesus coming down and counting the votes and saying that Trump lost. Yeah, and he said that the MAGA wouldn't believe him. The MAGA would crucify him.
Yeah.
They don't listen to anything Jesus says.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. They would call him a hippie, I'm guessing. Guess what's going to be better? Everything. Why?
Why?
Dana's here.
Oh.
Dana Goldberg next.
Welcome to Caffeinated, where we focus on the parts of a story that really matter by showing compassion to the opposing side. Take, if you will, Steve Bannon, the man who said, "Darkness is good." Darth Vader, Dick Cheney, Satan, that's power. Who published the op-ed "Birth Control Makes Women Unattractive and Crazy," and many other op-eds for Breitbart, most of which read better in the original German. Who warned the media should keep their mouths shut, and that same media can't stop desperately trying to book him on all their shows. You guys, seriously, I'm a little worried about Steve Bannon. Not because he brazenly defied a congressional subpoena about his role in the terrorist attacks on our nation's capital of January 6, 2021, wagging his junk at it, citing executive privilege, even though he'd been fired by the White House back in January 2017 and was working at the time of said attack as a podcaster, and not because he's a white supremacist who published a lot of white supremacist articles and supported the border wall and the Muslim ban and lots of authoritarian dictators, and who actually did say that cities could be washed away in an orgy of de-gentrification. No, I'm worried about Steve Bannon because the man looks like an alcoholic Thom. Have you seen this guy? He looks like a sack of pus that developed rickets. He looks like gout that caught gout. The man does not look well. Yeah, that's Steve Bannon, the one who was arrested on a Chinese billionaire's yacht and indicted by a federal grand jury for wire fraud and money laundering because he was ripping off Trump supporters donating to his Build the Wall campaign, and then Trump pardoned him for ripping off his own MAGA faithful. That guy. Is he okay? I'm just worried because Steve Bannon looks like a guy who was up watching porn till 6:45 a.m. and his alarm was set for 7. He looks like the guy in the office that HR has to physically give a deodorant stick to after one too many coworker complaints. He looks like a diseased leprechaun, freebasing in the Port Authority bus terminal men's room. But we need to put aside our petty differences and recognize that this is clearly a fellow human being who is in pain. Can we do that? Do we have the humanity to reach out with love to Steve Bannon? Because he looks like the guy in the zombie movie who doesn't want the other survivors to know he got bit in the last scene. He looks like an infected toe. He looks like that uncle who comes over and smells of cigarettes and cat piss and always wants you to sit on his lap, but you're 15. I'm just worried about the guy is all I'm saying. And yes, I know his wife alleges he physically abused her and wouldn't let their kids go to school with Jewish children. I know YouTube has taken down his videos because they glorify violence, and Facebook took down his videos for glorifying violence, and Twitter has banned him for glorifying violence. And I know he said that Mussolini was a guy's guy who had amazing fashion sense. He said that. But in fairness, lots of people who aren't fascists praise Mussolini's style. But I am asking you to look into your hearts and find some compassion. Because Steve Bannon looks like a guy whose parole officer makes him knock on every door and introduce himself whenever he moves to a new neighborhood. He looks like Pigpen the Hutt. Steve Bannon looks like a guy who was just forced to drive cross-country in a small car with no ventilation and the windows rolled up while sitting next to Steve Bannon. He's not a healthy man. We are just concerned because he looks like he just ate 20 pounds of cheese and it's coming out of his facial pores. And by the way, I know what you're thinking. What right do I have to make fun of Steve Bannon's appearance when I look like Joe Exotic's mullet donor? It's true, I still have my pandemic hair, but I know it. See, number one, I accept that I look like the love child of Beethoven and Loki. I look like John Wick during a nationwide Moroccan oil shortage. But number two, I'm just concerned about him. So while you cynically fixate on the fact that he called the Civil War the War of Southern Independence, or that he looks like physical proof that white supremacists are the greatest argument against the concept of white supremacy. And he said that conservative women are better than progressive women because, and I quote, they're not a bunch of dykes that came from the Seven Sisters school up in New England. You ask, how can Steve Bannon sleep at night? I say, in a puddle of his own sick. But that's mean. We gotta be the good guys and look after him and make sure he's okay. Because he looks like a police sketch artist rendition of mutated gonorrhea. And that's why we're starting Steve Pack. Your selfless donation, MAGA fans, of $100 or more will allow us to buy multiple shirts for Steve Bannon, all of which he can wear at the same time. Then, when he vomits Jägermeister up on the top shirt, he can simply remove it and continue his broadcast. So if you see Steve Bannon, put aside your differences and offer him your hand. But you know to wash it, like right away. Like, wash that shit. And don't touch your face either, okay? Just offer your hand, but then soak the entire hand in bleach for half a day. Soak the whole arm in bleach for half a day. Thank you. Please like and subscribe. And remember, if Donald Trump pardons Steve Bannon for stealing from white nationalist Trump supporters, maybe we should thank Trump for setting Steve free to continue his fine patriotic work.
Joe Biden, in his strategic wisdom that has not failed him his entire presidency, held the line while they were busting his ass for 6 weeks till they chose two major points happened. They were negotiating the release of these hostages, and Trump picked his VP and couldn't get rid of him. He didn't pick him, and then he had 24 hours till the thing, and then he could swap him out at the last second. He's stuck with this dumbass. And once he was stuck with him, and you know what the ticket is, he's like, whoop, I'm going to go. You got it. Tag team. And Trump says, it's like you're fighting a prize fighter, and then you're making progress, and then they replace them with a total prize fighter. Now, never mind the idea that A, that's not how that works, and B, if you're exhausted and you're saying they're bringing in somebody fresh, all you're doing is admitting to your exhaustion,
right?
More than anything. It has nothing to do with them. Secondly, it's tag team wrestling, dumbass. If one of them can't do it, they tag and come out. We have a president and a vice president for a reason. We have for a long time. That If you don't believe me, ask Nixon. If you don't believe him, ask fucking Reagan into Bush 1. That's the point. That's what if you have a strategy, that's how you work it.
What this film does, which no other film to date has done, it weaves through all of these narratives. What the Trump lawyers were doing as part of their Kraken strategy, there was the Stop the Steal movement, the Proud Boys, and then the Oath Keepers, and the 3%ers, and all these militia groups, and how it organically moved and culminated in what was January 6th. This is that story.
So, ironically, Roddy Piper did get his, which is what Cyndi Lauper always used to say. Roddy Piper, you'll get yours. So what you're saying is he did.
I think he
did. Oh, Dana, I'm sorry.
Let me double check that.
Let's see if we haven't killed
Bring
somebody
you in
that's
on
alive.
this inopportune moment. Hello.
Yeah. Hi, good morning. Let me know when you're ready for me. I'm ready to go.
It's always like coming into Thanksgiving late, like when
Yeah,
everyone's,
right?
when
Yes.
everyone's 4 drinks in, and we're like, "Come on in, go ahead."
He died in
Who's here?
2015.
What are we talking about? Yep.
What?
He died in 2015.
Okay.
Yes, he's been
All
gone
right.
a
Thank
while.
you for that. All right. Happy Halloween to him. Okay. Hi, Dana. Hi.
Hi.
Speaking of heroes standing up, I love you tweeted John Leguizamo, who I love.
Yep.
Known him since my New York days. But he has a shirt that says, "Can't say American without the Rican." That's fantastic.
Exactly.
I love all these MAGA now that's like, John Leguizamo's from Colombia. He's not even Puerto Rican. I'm like, you also don't play for the Philadelphia Eagles, but you have no problem wearing the jersey, so why don't you sit down? Like,
exactly.
We know you don't.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Also, his grandfather is from Puerto Rican descent, so like, just
Yeah.
stop.
You
Everyone
and the-
just stop.
You in the Dodger hat. You don't play third base, so shut up.
Yeah.
He's not even Puerto Rican.
Yeah. You tweeted Donald Trump is lying about aid being withheld by Dems during natural disasters, but you know who did illegally withhold hurricane relief from Puerto Rico? Donald Trump. I've been saying this all week, Dana. It shouldn't even have taken a comedian. His response to Hurricane Maria was just despicable. And the things he said about Puerto Ricans then, and Noel Castler's been telling us for years, he said of all the people Donald Trump hates, he hates Puerto Ricans the most. Anyone on The Apprentice, he said, can tell you. how prejudiced he was
Absolutely.
against Puerto Ricans.
Yeah, you know what? Even if it took if you want to put comic in air quotes, even if it took Tony to say something, at least it happened. You know what I mean? Like whatever it does take at this point to get national attention on how horrible this, campaign is, I'll take it. But yeah, we've got commercials and clips of him for years talking about how people in the United States are garbage, that the United States is a garbage can, that we're the enemy of the people.
Yeah.
And then, oh God, and F Joe Biden. And then Joe Biden's all of a sudden like, F you guys too,
Right.
which he didn't even actually say.
Right.
And then
Right.
everyone's grasping their pearls on the other side.
Yeah.
How dare you stand up for yourself,
First
sir?
of all, yeah, after January 6th, you're like, Hillary was too kind with basket of deplorables, I
Yeah.
mean, and also we're like, they are garbage. Anyone that tells those kind of jokes or laughs at those kind of jokes or traffics in that kind of talk, that's what Biden was saying. And please, with the desperate clutch the pearls. And can I say Lawrence O'Donnell slammed the news media for panicked and stupid campaign coverage of President Biden's garbage remarks, supposedly referring to Trump supporters, by accusing journalists of refusing to understand English grammar. He said, the poisonous American candidate for president who uses Hitler's language constantly and calls Democrats garbage, that was not news. But the very same news media that ignored all the times Trump has called American citizens and American voters scum and garbage actually tried to turn Joe Biden's use of the word garbage into a controversial news story. To do so, they had to refuse to listen to the actual sentence Joe Biden spoke. They had to refuse to look at the written words of that sentence. They had to refuse to understand English grammar. They had to refuse to understand what a singular possessive is. They had to refuse to understand what apostrophe means. I mean, on and on, right? And he said, not one of the reporters who got excited about this today asked Donald Trump to name the good things that Adolf Hitler did. The terrible campaign reporters and commentators covering this campaign are completely exploitable by Trump, and Trump knows it, which is why Trump, the stupidest candidate ever to run for president, climbed into a garbage truck today to try to draw more attention, which, of course, they covered. I mean, and he looked
they did.
ridiculous and frankly like he was having a stroke. I mean,
Well, the fact that and I don't know if it's because of his depth perception and he wasn't able to see that handle because the handle was black. It was sort of ironic. But he wasn't able to actually, it just twice.
Yeah.
His depth perception's off. He's dragging his right leg. And let's remember that 3 months ago, everyone was talking about how senile they think Joe Biden is and how
Yeah.
he can't put a sentence together and why is he in public, and all of a sudden we're supposed to take his word. You know what I mean? Now all of a sudden he's the sharpest guy in the world and anything he says must be, taken as gospel.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. The hypocrisy is hilarious. I just, we were talking about the wrestler. Everyone listening, please have a plan. Text somebody during a commercial break and be like, hey, have you, just one person, hey, have you voted? Oh, you haven't? What's your plan?
Yeah.
Don't wake up on November 6th and feel like you could have done something more, because we really have to vote in numbers that are too hard to manipulate, because this is going to be crazy on November 6th when we wake up, because everything's going to be thrown at the wall. So make sure you've done everything you can.
Yeah, no, absolutely agreed. It is so sphincter clenching, terrifying. It's hard to find the words to talk about it. You retweeted Marcus Johnson, who's a youngin', who said, always remember when you go to vote, the impact of a presidency doesn't just last for 4 years. In many cases, they can have impacts for at least 100 years. Don't force yourself to fight battles your parents and grandparents already won. And you just said wise words from our young voters. The kids are all right. I was talking about that I got the first picture of my mom's name, which is my name, inscribed on my dad's grave in Arlington yesterday. And not just the despicable thing he did at Arlington, but just how he's insulted all of the, to me, all the patriots that lie there. And how much, it's just hard to overestimate how much this election means, right?
I'm hoping people don't take this for granted. It's not just him. This is Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and JD Vance running the country. This isn't, Trump. They're going to put him out to pasture. So make sure that they don't give him an opportunity to do that. This is a terrifying fascist lineup behind him, and their bench is deep, unfortunately. Yeah. So we got to stop him now. We're going to have to stop him again in 4 years, but let's do it on November 5th. Let's do it in numbers that are massive.
By the way, there's just one story after another of Republican fuckery, in this election already, right?
Yeah.
Just lawsuits and ballot boxes lit on, drop boxes lit on fire and threatening Democratic voters. And this one, I love this. Musk's get out the vote, because you mentioned Elon Musk. Musk's get out the vote workers were driven around on the back of a U-Haul van with no seats. Right. and tricked into helping Trump. One of several Michigan door knockers who claimed they were tricked into helping Musk help Trump get out the vote efforts were driven door to door in the back of a U-Haul van, no seats, threatened that their lodging at the local motel wouldn't be paid for if they didn't meet canvassing quotas, and that they would have to pay for their own flights home. So this was a contractor that received money from Elon's PAC, whatever, to operate door knocking. However, workers were reportedly left unaware of exactly who they were working for. One of them said, "I knew nothing of the job or much of the job description other than going door to door asking voters who they were voting for. Then after I signed over an EDA is when I found out we were Republicans and with Trump." I mean, it's just, they have to resort to tricks because they're going to lose, Dana. Make no mistake.
Absolutely. Oh, I agree with you. And we already know every time they do something, it's projection. They're the ones having to pay people to go door to door. People for Kamala's team are doing it because they care about democracy. They're the ones busing in people for the rallies. 75,000 people are showing up at the Ellipse to support the next president of the United States. Everything that comes out of their mouth is projection, and we know that.
Yeah. This was scary. Mike Johnson and Trump already work on an effort to steal the 2024 election, writes Ellie Mistal from The Nation. By the way, I had Allison Gill on, and we tried to Ellie Mistal each other.
This story scared the crap out of me. I'm not gonna lie.
I know. Yeah, Ellie is not happy clappy. But he said the secret almost certainly involves a plan to install Trump in the White House if he loses the election. But this plan could be even worse than you think. It's entirely possible the secret plan is nothing more than a penny ante plot to, say, set fire to ballot drop boxes, which could be foiled by the Hardy Boys or Merrick Garland should he ever wake up. Ms. Stahl said. See, that's what I...
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. He said, some have wondered if Johnson might install Trump as president by claiming a contingent election that allows the House of Representatives, not the Electoral College, to determine the president. Ms. Stahl thinks the plot goes deeper than that. When people talk about contingent election, they're referring to the 12th Amendment, he says, saying if no candidate wins the majority of Electoral College votes, the House decides. Gastrointestinal distress. The key here is that the process is not based on a vote of the full House. It's based on a vote of the House delegations, with each state getting an equal vote. Currently, Republicans control 26 of the 50 House delegations, meaning they could hand Trump the presidency in a contingent election scenario. Oh, dear God.
That's why you got to vote for your state.
That said, Mistal doesn't even think they'll go that far. His fear is the states where Trump loses, Electoral College voters will refuse to certify the results. He says so the whole number is supposed to be 538, but one potential reading of the amendment is that Trump doesn't have to win 270 Electoral College. He just has to win a majority of how many electors show up. Trump's goal, I believe, is to decrease the number of electors appointed until he wins. Oh my God. I mean, the only thing that calms me now is Mark Elias on TV saying,
listen,
calm down, we're going to win this. Just get out and vote, because all
this
of this
whole
stuff, you're
story,
like, what? I know.
I mean, part of me was like, obviously it's important that people know this, but also I'm like, if the other side wasn't smart enough to think about it, he laid out an entire plan for them and put it in print. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, but these are not people that think they're going to win fairly, Dana. That's the
no,
point.
absolutely not. And thank God. And there's other people on there, and I can't remember the handle. I know the guy's name is Derek, but he's talking about how we do have people set up. The administration is watching this. The administration's watching everything. The administration's hearing him say he's got a secret plan with Mike Johnson. So there are lawyers now set up in every state, because every state, even though some of them do have Republican governors or do have Republican AGs, they still have state laws that say you have to certify by a certain time. And if not, these people will go to jail.
Yeah.
And so I'll be interested to see how many people are willing, again, to throw away their entire career and reputation for this SOB, because it seems like there's a lot.
Yeah. By the way, the Philly DA sues to halt Elon Musk's $1 million voter giveaway, and Ellie Mistal tweeted, "Hey, look what Larry Krasner's doing that Merrick Garland doesn't have the balls to do."
We have a bit of an update. Elon Musk failed to show up at this hearing.
Yeah, he didn't show, so
Yeah.
it may look like his push to have it go into federal court may have actually worked. So that's the thing here. It's delay.
Yeah.
They're such cheaters, I'm telling you. And then I hit. Then she tried to hit me with the Ellie Mistal stick. Allison did, about canceling. Chris and I are not for boycotts. By the way, Julie in Seattle said, subject line, always take Stephanie Miller's advice. I think that's a good idea.
Always?
Except on dating.
Unless it comes to dating. Yep, there we go.
There you go. Everybody's on the same page.
Steph, I had canceled the Washington Post in a fit of pique after Bezos deep sixed the endorsement of Kamala, but then I heard your argument about not screwing the good reporters yesterday. I thought better of it. Mama's always right. Anybody with an annual subscription, 120, who canceled might want to take Stephanie Miller's advice and get I got a year for $30 by reactivating.
Yeah.
We were just, Chris and I were saying, like, you know, we love Michael Hiltzik and Robin Abkarian. They're such great writers here at the LA Times. Same thing. That, you know, I don't want to punish the good reporters. You're not going to hurt Jeff Bezos' bottom line
And
at
there
all.
are good street reporters there that have nothing to do with
and
politics.
And the Washington Post editorial board just did something that seemed pretty. And if it was not an endorsement, it was a pretty resounding denunciation of Donald Trump. So I think they snuck around the Bezos. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I also love that it was like the humorous columnist. I think the humorous columnist is the one that actually from WAPO was the one that, like, fine, leave it up to the guy that writes the jokes. I'll endorse her.
yeah, exactly. It always falls on us.
Yeah.
21 minutes after the hour. This portion of the show brought.
We have won this election in Georgia based on all of this. And the people of Georgia are angry.
Oh, boy.
The people of the country are angry.
So much fun to watch.
And there's nothing wrong with saying that, you know, that you've recalculated.
The Steeler way.
Now, do you think it's possible
Me personally?
that they shredded ballots in Fulton County?
I'd probably be lying if I said no.
Because that's what the rumor is. And also that Dominion took out machines.
It's a mystery.
That Dominion is really moving fast to get rid of their machinery. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know. I know during the season isn't the time to think about it.
You sure, Ryan?
Ben.
You should want to have an accurate election.
I've been doing this for 14 years now. I've seen the highs, the lows in football, and just being able to understand that it's a fun game, but it's just that. It's just a game.
No, I know you don't. No, you don't. You don't have. Not even close. You're off by hundreds of thousands of votes.
It'd be lying if we said that every part of this is fun. But you need to try and make it fun.
You know what they did, and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense.
I knew I just had a bad day. It's just one of those days. We all have them. We've all had a bad day at the office.
And you can't let that happen. That's a big risk to you and to Ryan, your lawyer. That's a big risk.
I'm not into all the center of attention, but I'll enjoy watching him do it.
But they are shredding ballots, in my opinion, based on what I've heard, and they are removing machinery, and they're moving it as fast as they can, both of which are criminal fines, and you can't let it happen, and you are letting it happen. I'm notifying you that you're letting it happen.
They were trying to get me to, on Thursday, they were talking about some celebration they wanted to do and get me involved, and I said, no, guys, I'm not doing it.
I just want to find 11,780 votes.
Do it in a dirty kind of way.
What are we going to do? We won the election, and it's not fair to take it away from us like this.
Not quitting, not giving up, not being able to.
And it's going to be very costly in many ways.
Not very.
And I think you have to say that you're going to re-examine it, and you can re-examine it, but re-examine it with people that want to find answers, not people that don't want to find answers.
People talk a lot about the brain, mental health, CT, all that stuff moving forward, and sometimes those symptoms don't show right now, because we don't know about what's going on in our heads. So that's, I think, more of the scary part is what's the future hold for our heads.
For instance, I'm hearing Ryan, and he's probably, I'm sure, a great lawyer and everything, but he's making statements about those ballots that he doesn't know.
He's a kid that works really hard. Like, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. If he does, he corrects it, won't make the same mistake twice. And then you're going through a walkthrough, and everything's real serious, and you're walking through, and you're talking about something, and next thing you know, like, he's on the ground diving for a ball or rolling around, doing something like completely off the wall silly.
But he's making them with such, he did make them with surety, But now I think he's less sure because the answer is they all went to Biden. And that alone wins us the election by a lot. You know.
We're still not sure if he really lost his bike or did he just want to get a new bike?
Well, under law, you're not allowed to give faulty election results, okay? You're not allowed to do that, and that's what you've done. This is a faulty election result. And honestly, this should go very fast. You should meet tomorrow.
We carved pumpkins this week.
You know, the people of Georgia know that this was a scam. And because of what you've done to the president, a lot of people aren't going out to vote.
Take a knee.
And a lot of Republicans are going to vote negative because they hate what you did to the president, okay? They hate it. And they're going to vote. And if you would be respected, really respected, if this thing could be straightened out before the election. You have a big election coming up on Tuesday.
It's a mystery.
Because Mitch McConnell is the reason he has two of those seats, because he stole Merrick Garland's seat, and then he did the exact same thing when he said they couldn't have Merrick Garland, putting in Amy Coney Barrett. So those two seats would not have been Trump's. Those two picks would not have been Trump's. They would have been Obama's and Joe's. But they're not. They're Trump's. And that was all McConnell. And then for McConnell to stand there and say this belongs in the courts, and then the courts weigh in, and their decision is that, yes, he's above the law. He's basically a king. We're going to be a country to go back to a monarchy. Like, what?
Yeah, I was so furious because the rationalization, John Roberts' rationalization was a president needs to act boldly and unhesitatingly. The idea being that a president cannot be encumbered by having to think for even a moment, or consider what's legal for even a moment. And it's the dumbest thing. It's like that's the difference. A king does not have to worry about what the law is.
Right.
A president does. That is literally the difference, you boneheaded douchebag.
Dancing. I want to do a quick correction before I said that it was the columnist.
An ad for arthritis.
Yeah.
There you go. I think I may have said that the columnist for the Washington Post was male, and I got David in D.C., who I love, correcting me. Her name is Alexandra Petrie, and she's absolutely hysterical.
Yep.
So I just want to make sure I correct myself when I make mistakes.
Yeah. We were saying, this opinion piece in the Washington Post, it's the same thing. I mean, excoriating Trump is the same thing as endorsing Kamala Harris. And Chris was saying, I don't think anyone's ever made, especially in this day and age, has made a decision based on a newspaper. Nobody even reads newspapers, no offense, but, an editorial. But, their editorial board's piece was Donald Trump's closing argument, vulgarity. Trump showed in his closing argument at the raucous rally at Madison Square Garden that whether he wins or loses on November 5th, he's already done severe damage to American politics by coarsening and corroding public discourse. The stand-up comedian who made the nasty crack about Puerto Rico, Tony Hinchcliffe, made other tasteless jokes about African Americans, Latinos, and Jews. The Bulwark reported that Trump campaign staffers reviewed a script of Mr. Hinchcliffe's routine in advance and asked him to excise only a line that referred to Ms. Harris as the C word.
Yep.
So they
approved everything.
They reviewed
else.
it. It was in the teleprompter. And I love only the C. Oh, really? And they do everything but call her the C word, basically. But it's just, they knew exactly what he's known for his racist humor.
And of course, Trump's like, I've never met the comic. I've never heard of the guy. I don't know who he is.
Coffee boy. Don't know.
Absolutely not. And I'm curious, did you know the guy who said he was at a Nazi rally, or that Rudy Giuliani guy that said Palestinians are born and trained to kill Americans, or, the jokes about Jewish people or black people, all of those things where he's like, I didn't know that comic. I didn't hear the comment about Puerto Rico.
Right.
That's it. And the reason is because there's so many Puerto Ricans in the United States that can vote.
Yep. Dana Goldberg.
Oh, hi. Come, walk with me. I kind of want to talk about the least of my people.
You know, every year around this time, I always got to try real hard to not smack upside the head all these hypocrites, snakes, and vipers who call undocumented U.S. workers illegals. I don't like getting angry, but this shit makes me want to flip a table. Illegals is a racist, dehumanizing, otherizing term. It's designed to make other people appear less than human, so you won't feel bad when you treat them inhumanely. It's a really shitty noun. Ask yourself this: when's the last time Fox News called any other kind of lawbreaker an illegal? If you do 56 in a 55 zone, aren't you an illegal too? Huh? Come on. Now, you wouldn't know it from watching Tucker, but the majority of undocumented immigrants in this country are people who overstayed their visas. However, every night on Fox, he who tucks in his brood of vipers say illegals, and they're always referring to brown people crossing a border. Here's a dirty secret. Politicians could end undocumented immigration tomorrow if they by locking up the white people who do all the hiring. This is supply and demand economics, my friends. There's a gigantic help wanted sign at our southern border, and there's no wall you can ever build that'll be big enough to hide it. And politicians of both parties are in no rush to take down the help wanted sign. Rich people pay Fox people to make working people blame poor people. Now here's 10 facts about illegal people. Number 1, undocumented immigrants commit crimes at a much lower rate than US-born citizens. Why? Fear of deportation. So imagine if we could do that to homegrown criminals. Number 2, undocumented immigrants pay state, local, and sales tax over $400 billion in 2017 alone. Those guys standing outside Home Depot looking for day labor work, they're not the ones who outsource your job to China. By the way, racist idiots, there are no national politicians currently calling for open borders or amnesty. Anyone who tells you there are is lying, or as I like to call it, bearing false witness. You know who did call for that? Ronald Reagan. That's right, the star of all your right-wing porn fantasies. St. Ronnie gave amnesty to millions of undocumented people and claimed that open borders allows them to just go home when they're done working here. But don't feel bad, you racist douchebags. Reagan still supported apartheid. You ever notice whenever they raid one of these meatpacking plants down south and they arrest several hundred illegal workers, they're a lot slower to arrest the guys in the back room who did the hiring, who are counting all the cash. And that is all the proof you need to know that the illegal immigration scare is regressive gaslighting bullshit. Donald Trump hires undocumented labor. Going back to the 80s, it was Polish workers who built Trump Tower, but they never got called illegals because they're white. Even as president, Trump continued to employ undocumented workers. He's now done it in 2 different centuries, all to avoid paying American workers a living wage. You are being suckered by millionaire at birth hypocrites. Does it physically hurt to be this freaking gullible? Oh, let's talk about the wall. You morons understand that they were never actually going to build a physical medieval wall for thousands of miles stretching across deserts and rivers and forests and private and commercial properties and seizing land from American citizens using eminent domain law, right? You understand that was a scam? It wasn't going to get finished. Mexico was never going to pay for it. And even if they had, twits, ladders and shovels are things. They looted the military for a scam. Steve Bannon was ripping people off and Trump pardoned him for it, and they are both now wagging their tiny junk at you. And that's not a pretty sight. The majority of American voters were
scum, we're absolute garbage. Like, I don't know what we're doing.
Thank you, politics girl, our home girl.
Yep.
Hey, how about those Dodgers? How about those Dodgers, right, Dana?
Yeah, good job. I would have loved to see them win at home, but a win is a win, and I'm sure they were happy to have the series end, especially since some of the New York fans can't keep their hands to themselves.
Exactly. Did you see that?
No, it did
not.
not.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, very handsy.
They tried to rip the ball out of Mookie's glove.
Well, this is the team that thought Bat Day would be a good day to give a bunch of drunken Yankee fans bats. So, all right, let's... Hey,
I love New York, so it's not all of them, but those 2 fans, man.
Yeah, they've been banned.
No, we love New York. Anyway, I just think it's a good sign because we love LA, don't we, Chris? I mean, and where's Kamala from? LA. Hello, she lives in LA. Did you know that? Yeah. Okay. I was looking for I Love
Well,
LA.
you asked for something else.
Yeah,
and I
not
was-
yet. Okay. Oh, look. Look, Lee from Florida tweeted a picture of me and him when I was bike riding with my Major Taylor Club. He says, please say hi to Debbie for Florida from a fellow American Ecuadorian from Miami. I'm the guy you met in Laguna Beach at the gas station when you were on your bike ride. And that's right. We had Debbie McCarcel Powell on, who is pulled ahead of Rick Scott, Dana. I'm telling you, don't sleep on Florida. Don't sleep on
Thank
Texas.
God.
Right?
Yeah, and hopefully, I mean, even maybe Marsha Blackburn might be out of a job if we can get Gloria Johnson elected in Tennessee. That would be incredible.
We've had her on. She's fantastic as well.
Yeah.
Also, I hope Rick Scott is not to be rude, is not going door knocking. It's because it's Halloween and he does look like Skeletor. I'm sorry, he is very freaky. Has he blinked since the Medicare scandal? I don't think he's ever blinked.
Skeletons don't blink. They don't have eyes.
Don't. That is going to scare the children if you go door to door. All right. Speaking of scary, Donald's family, Melania, was asked on Tuesday why she has finally joined her husband on the campaign trail. She did not provide.
Best.
Oh, because she was being best?
She was being the best.
Okay. Thank you.
Be best.
Apparently, that is the end of her.
Individual liberty.
Okay, the former First Lady did not provide much clarity in her answer. She said, "It was an incredible place. I love New York City. I think people to hear from me at that on that day." I just think it's kind of hilarious that he's running against all immigrants and his wife sounds like Latka from Taxi. But that's just the arena, Madison Square Garden, the support that we have, and I want to support my husband as well. So I was there for him and everybody else. Okay, then she had to go on to say, it's terrible, he's not Hitler. You know when you have to say your husband's not Hitler?
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of Hitlery. Saying on all
Was
of
there a comma in there?
No,
Or-
no, I'm just reading the actual transcript.
Ava
it's terrible, he's not Hitler.
Ava Braun said the same thing.
He's, and all of his supporters, they're standing behind him because they want to see country successful. Okay, she, yes, has been invisible during the campaign, but she has been out promoting her own book, Melania.
Man, I feel for her ghostwriter. You know, a friend of mine is a ghostwriter, and there's absolutely no way this person was like, this is the easiest job I've ever had.
Can I just take a moment on Halloween to point out they are all awful grifters, all of them, Donald's
Awful.
family. The holidays. Remember the Christmas?
Uh-huh.
That's right.
Of all the first ladies we've had.
Yeah.
She's the Christmas lady.
Yep.
Oh, so proud. So, you know, we're all like, again, sphincters snapped shut. So one analyst is saying it may take a while for final results to be tabulated in many swing states on election night. One election analyst has flagged a key signal whether Vice President Harris is in a good position to win Georgia. He said, look at Baldwin and Washington counties. Both are more rural. If Harris wins both, she's likely getting the rural black turnout and margins needed to win the state. Harris can win the state without that, of course, but if you're looking for a good blue alert type of signal in 2024 in a non-Atlanta county, that's a pretty good one. I just
it is
yeah,
it is really interesting. Like in 2020, it was all eyes on Georgia. You remember? You know, it was like what's going on in Georgia. We haven't heard much about Georgia other than all of the BS that's happening with the election board. It seems like he's most focused on Pennsylvania. Like he's not. We don't see a lot of tweets about what's going on in Georgia.
Someone just said what Chris said yesterday. A Republican strategist said his internals must not look good in Pennsylvania because he is spazzing out about Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Hey, there's been like 3 news stories just yesterday. There's been, I don't know how many troths or truths or whatever, but yeah.
Troths or truths or whatever. Trumps.
Yeah. So this headline, we've been talking about this. Trump efforts to mobilize men sending suburban women even further away, according to Republican strategists. Yeah, no kidding, right? All about the douche bros. College-educated voters were reliably Republican for decades, but now they're turning away from Trump from his toxicity. It started in 2018, but then Dobbs put a flame to the gas. Said one strategist, not only do you have Democratic suburban women who are turning out in high numbers, but there's also moderate, sane women who the Republican Party has moved away from. The Trump campaign is going overboard to win over and mobilize men, exacerbating the divide and pushing women in the other direction. I mean, I think that's going to be one of, if not the major story of this election, don't you think, is the women's vote?
I absolutely do. And, you know, we all love Hillary. You know, I voted for her, but I do think there's For whatever reason, there's more of a likability behind Harris in many ways. So I think we have so many more voters coming out there. I think we have a tremendous amount of Republicans that are tired of the BS, that have been switching their votes. We also have the youth vote, and we've got coalitions on the ground when it comes to Black voters and Native American voters, Pacific Islander voters. Like, there's massive coalitions happening that I don't think we've ever seen before. And I do think we're going to have a popular vote that blows 2020 out of the water.
I will say, I've said this over and over in Hillary's defense too. Kamala didn't have 20 years of vicious reporting that Hillary had against her. They already, oh my God, they had demonized her for how many years already. So I think there was that she was up against, and then of course the misogyny, some of which Kamala is also experiencing. But I agree with you. She's also, what everybody says, a joyful warrior. She's really enjoying this, whereas Hillary would be the first to tell you she didn't enjoy campaigning. She wanted to govern. She always said, "I'm not the public speaker. My husband or Obama is." Like, that wasn't her. Whereas I think Kamala is just. I'm not the only one saying it. I feel like she has run a flawless campaign.
I agree with you, and I also think that, the Clintons are definitely seen as part of the establishment, and like it or not, because her last name was Clinton, they didn't want necessarily another establishment person in there. Kamala breaks that. Kamala doesn't have a history where her husband was the president or someone, you know what I mean? Or that someone else was the president already. But the misogyny and racism we're seeing with Kamala, when the MAGA and the press are asking a Black woman to justify the words of a white man instead of asking a white man to justify his own words, and I'm talking about Trump.
Yeah.
No one is saying, she's got to answer for Biden.
I was thrown off because he's an orange man, but the white got it.
Fair. Yep, that was fair. I lost you. I saw it in your eyes. They glazed over. I was like, she's not following this at all.
No.
It's one of those things you can see it. There's no reason Kamala Harris should have to answer for Joe Biden's words ever.
A reporter asked her yesterday, "Are you going to take a cognitive test?" Because Donald Trump says you should. This is just the stupidest timeline in the universe. But how
about we give him an IQ test? Forget the cognitive list. Let's give Kamala and Trump an IQ test right next to each other.
But we talked about a lot of this wrestler that's talking about voting for Kamala. I'm sorry, real men are going to vote for Kamala. Men that are not scared of strong women, and also I think, Dana, more and more people are framing this issue. Abortion is not just a women's issue. It's been a while since I've dated a guy. I think there's usually men involved.
Usually.
Women getting pregnant.
Usually.
And they have a lot of stake in this too. If you want your pay docked for the rest of your life because, you don't have any choice if your girlfriend gets pregnant. If you don't want your mom or your sister to be able to get cancer care, that, it's a lot bigger issue. It's not a women's issue, right?
I wish that people that were focusing on that, and obviously the abortion issue is so important, but talking about women's health in general and men's health and healthcare for trans men and our trans women, Planned Parenthood provides a tremendous amount of healthcare that is not just abortions. It's a small percentage of what they do, and it's so necessary around this country to make sure that stays legal. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think that for those people that are somehow still undecided, to be able to reach them at a point that actually they can feel some sort of medication. If they take away the ACA, everyone in this country has anxiety because of this.
Mike Johnson is on record as saying they're going to take a sledgehammer to it. This is not
pre-existing condition. Under the insurance company, anxiety and depression is a pre-existing condition. Asthma is a pre-existing condition. We need to talk to these parents and talking about their kids and being like, if you want to be able to get health insurance, and if you want your child when they grow up to be able to get health insurance, you need to make sure that they don't gut the ACA. Do not vote for these people.
Yep. Busy Phillips, who is a delight. We had her on the Happy Hour podcast, but she was talking about women's rights.
My mom's a little bit older. It was very much of a time a woman couldn't have a credit card.
Oh, really?
Well, women couldn't have their own credit cards until 1975.
It was 74.
Right?
Is that real?
Yeah, without a cosigner. Guys, do you not know this?
No.
Yeah,
that was an episode of Handmaid's Tale.
1974. 1974. What did I say? What did I?
Wow.
Protect for the law, women needed their husbands, fathers, or brothers to co-sign for a loan or credit card.
100%.
That's crazy.
You can see why she was a delight on the Happy Hour.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. When we talk about equality,
wow.
my mom couldn't get a credit card until The year my sister was born.
I did not.
That's crazy.
I did not know that.
The fact that women were able to finally have agency and bodily autonomy led to more equality, including financial equality.
Wait, this was 2 years after Roe.
Roe is 1972.
So then the guys were like, we got to give him a credit
You
card. I
don't
don't
need
want
to
pay
look
for
that up.
this.
I'm right.
Oh my God.
Dana, I've said this over and over. It's so distressing to me in 2024 that women feel they have to vote secretly and not tell their MAGA boyfriends and husbands. Yeah. But, you know, once again, let's reiterate, no one is going to know who you voted for. You don't have. But because of this kind of, speaking of douche bros, here is Jesse Waters. Did I hear this right? He's threatening his wife.
Yep.
If I found out Emma was going into the voting booth and pulling the lever for Harris, that's the same thing as having an affair.
No, it's not.
That to me,
oh my God! Let him finish. Go, Jesse. It's our day.
That violates the sanctity of our marriage.
Yes.
What else is she keeping from me?
Exactly.
What else has she been lying about?
Why would she lie to you? Have you
has...
threatened her? Why would she lie to you?
Oh. Janine actually not taking his side.
She was not taking his side.
Yeah.
At all.
That must have been the wine talking.
Yeah, I was going to say that one gin-soaked brain cell woke up. Hey, what? Wait a minute. You sexist piece of...
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't imagine there is not going to be an enormous women's vote that we don't even know. You know, it may not be showing up in polling, right?
I agree with you. And, you know, our dear friend Richard Chu in Chicago is also talking about how people have sent money and resources down to the southern states. They have family down there that have never voted before to make sure that they get registered to vote. The black community is going to come out in numbers that we have never seen before because they have built this coalition for years. This wasn't, you know, a 200 days out when Kamala got the nomination. They have been building this coalition for years, and we are seeing it in full effect in this election.
It's all these factors, Dana. People are saying, you know, it's the 2008 Obama factor. You know, the first African-American woman president. It's you know, the revenge of the sea hats and what happened to Hillary in 2016. And then you add Roe being overturned. And, you know, I'm so sick. I was saying all these like scare stories, like black people aren't going to vote for it. You know, the latest poll came out, 90% of African Americans are voting for Kamala. I mean, it's just, are you kidding me? We see, as you said, 75,000 people at the ellipse, like, and in state after state after state, we see the enthusiasm. So, you know.
Yeah.
My
it's
point
beautiful.
is,
and her campaign setting up that photo with all the American flags and I think it was either the Capitol or the White House in the back, and I apologize, I don't know which one. It was such a beautiful picture, and I do believe in manifestation. I believe you put things out into the universe. It was a presidential picture, and I hope it is the beginning of the next 8 years with her in the White House.
Did you see she's going to spend election night at Howard University at her alma mater in Washington?
Yep.
All right. 48 minutes after the hour, this portion of the show brought to you by...
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn in the past few hours.
Politicians under attack for opposing Venezuela's president. Dozens of his supporters breached the grounds of the National Assembly on Wednesday.
The peaceful transfer of power, the cornerstone of American democracy, seemed a highly abstract concept today. As Trump supporters clashed with police as they tried, and succeeded, to storm the Congress, where America's elected leaders had gathered to certify the election victory of Joe Biden.
Lawmakers and journalists tried to get to safety inside the building, but some of the attackers also got in before the door could be closed.
They were literally banging on the doors of Congress. And then some Trump supporters managed to get inside. They were armed and wandering the Capitol building,
unleashing chaos, and made their way inside the chamber, where they chased and beat lawmakers and journalists at the end of a special session marking the country's Independence Day. At least 5 opposition deputies were injured, some bleeding from the head, stumbling around the assembly corridors.
These pictures appear to show a woman protester being shot inside the Capitol building. A stretcher was sent in. She was later given CPR.
One of them, Americo de Gracia, had to be taken on a stretcher to an ambulance suffering from convulsions.
Once again, paramilitary groups with ties to the government broke into the Legislative Palace. 4 lawmakers were injured with cut heads, broken bones. 2 employees of the Parliament television network suffered head injuries. Firearms were brought in by civilians under the complacent watch of security services.
A protester breached the inner sanctum of the chamber. The Vice President had to be removed to safety by his Secret Service detail. And then the joint session was adjourned. Earlier, the Republican Senate leader, for so long a loyal lieutenant of the president, turned on him with this withering assessment.
This election were overturned by mere allegations from the losing side, our democracy would enter a death spiral.
President Nicolás Maduro, who was overseeing the traditional Independence military parade, condemned the violence and called for an investigation, but also planted doubts about who might be behind the attack.
I have been informed that during this important, brilliant, beautiful civil military event celebrating total independence, there have been some strange occurrences. They're always strange when the opposition is involved.
In a rally outside the White House, Donald Trump encouraged his loyal base to fight to overturn the result of this bitterly contested election.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. And we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them. Because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength and you have to be strong.
Yes, the injuries hurt us, but not as much as the pain we feel each time we see our country falling apart when they kill our youth. We will continue forward, don't have the slightest doubt.
Of his supporters needing little encouragement to join the fight.
We're here to support, if violence happens, like it happens, but we're not going to start it. We're just here to defend ourselves.
With blood.
Yeah.
Sorry, say that again. I'm a Mexican immigrant. I support Trump. Freedom is paid for with blood, and tyranny always masquerades itself as safety and security, and that's what we're fighting against right now.
Threatening his wife.
What?
Hold on. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, here we go. Jesse Waters, Fox News.
Why would she do that and then vote Harris? Why would she say she was voting Trump and then voting Harris? And I caught her, and then she said, I lied to you for the last 4 years.
So you admit you intimidate
It's over, Emma. That would be D-Day.
Wow. Okay.
He sounds pleasant.
Emma, that sounds like a deal I would take.
I think his mom.
I also love that that's his deal breaker and his existence isn't hers.
Right.
That's it.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Yeah, Mika Rosinski said, I have not met one alpha male who doesn't want to take care of his wife and daughters every way possible, wants every bit of health care available to them. I don't know of one. Willie Geist said, I would submit that the Republican leaders who scurry behind Trump calling themselves alpha, that's the definition of beta, doing whatever you're told by another guy. Thank you. All of these giant pussies, right? They just cow before this. Did you see the ridiculous amount of makeup he was wearing yesterday? Oh my God.
I think that was actually called, what is it? Security vest orange. Like, what is he wearing? Like, the reflector from the orange really brought out his face yesterday.
And please, with the clutching of the pearls over Joe Biden's, when Trump, do we have him? What is this one? This is, okay, Trump yesterday.
My response to Joe and Kamala is very simple. You can't lead America if you don't love Americans. You just can't.
All of them?
And you can't be president if you hate the American people. And there's a lot of hatred. It's the people that surround her. They're scum. They're scum. And they want to take down our country. They are absolute garbage. Any Jewish person that votes for her, especially now, her or the Democrat Party, should have their head examined.
Oh, you crazy Jews. Okay. But wait, there's more. Okay.
It's the enemy from within. All the scum that we have to deal with that hate our country, that's a bigger enemy than China and Russia. Any African American or Hispanic, and you know how well I'm doing there, that votes for Kamala, you got to have your head examined because they are really screwing you.
Okay. So, Dana, oh, by the way, we'll be talking to America's enemy number one, Adam Schiff, Saturday night on LA 60 Liberal
Fantastic.
Panel. Yes. And ask him how he holds up his giant watermelon head with his pencil neck.
Right.
Is that, yeah, okay.
He knows how to do
Because
that.
Donald Trump never name calls. Okay. So, by the way, so this whole Madison Square Garden thing, Dana, one Republican strategist said this, he said this may cost him the election. He was talking about even a tiny shift in Pennsylvania's population of Puerto Rican voters can make all the difference. We were saying they seem to be freaking out over their internals in Pennsylvania. So I don't know if that's it, but they were saying all the Bad Bunny, Ricky Martin, all of this stuff, J-Lo is because they're saying there's those voters that aren't really paying attention, that those, social media and entertainers really could make a difference influencing.
I actually think it's going to. I mean, even if it's a few thousand votes, like if someone doesn't know or they're not paying attention and they don't have Twitter or any of these, but they follow them on Instagram and they need a reason to vote, like it or not, they do trust these people.
Yeah, he said that's the October surprise. Surprise, Donald Trump, you blew yourself up.
It's also the second time a comedian has taken him down if you count Zelensky.
Oh, yeah.
Yay! We love you, Dana Goldberg. See you tomorrow.